Welcome to another stage analysis video. It's Sunday the 30th of April 2023. I'm going to start today's video by going through some of the week's strongest volume movers in terms of stocks already in stage 2 advances. Just have a look at a few of those stocks that were moving on volume before getting into some of the more regular content, the indexes, the industry group relative strength rankings, bell curve, the market breadth, which is obviously crucial with the stage analysis method, finishing off with the watchlist stocks from the weekend and the previous day's posts. So just going to run through those in a little bit more detail with some live markups on multiple time frames to give an idea of why they're on the watch list. So starting up, we're going to look at some of the stocks moving on some volume this week that are already in stage 2 advances at the moment. Microsoft obviously being a key one for the market, such a large mega cap stock here. So more than 2 times the average weekly volume there. As you can see from the volume profile, big move in early stage 2. This is our stage 2 breakout week back here. So making a continuation breakout on earnings this week. If we look at the daily chart on this, gapped up and followed through strongly the following day. So carrying on a little bit extended in the near term at the moment. As you can see, getting up towards its free ATR level, but not quite there yet. Still could run. We're looking for obviously a continue tennis ball action riding up the channel at the moment. But back to the weekly chart here, you see relative strength outperforming versus the S&P 500 here since early in March at the stage 2 breakout. So it's now about 7 weeks into its stage 2 advance at the moment, so still very early in its advance. We look at another one moving this week. We've got PRG Holdings here, so reasonably small stock at the moment, breaking out into stage 2, starting to move through some multiple resistance levels here. So you can see as it's starting to move up through this little cut pattern at the moment on volume on earnings this week. So Wednesday, big volume move, more than 3-4 times the average daily volume there, and then consolidating in the top of the range. So extended in the short term again above its free ATR level here. So looking for a little bit of consolidation first, pullback potentially, and make for a potential continuation run in this one, but still very early in its stage 2 advance. It's only 3 or 4 months into it now, so plenty of room to the upside. But obviously, if we look at overhead resistance, it did have quite a big stage 4 decline previously here. So you can see it's just moving up to the top of its resistance range. So it could still need to consolidate for a while here. So it's not yet clear of that overall resistance zone. Skechers, choppy stage 4 decline. It's been moving into stage 2 over the last 6-7 months or so, since November time here, starting to move up. So made a continuation move this week on volume. So again, you can see it's the biggest volume for a little while here since it had that near-term top. It's getting up towards the old highs, so potentially moving towards the turbulent zone here. Could start to chop around here. It's getting a little bit extended in the short term again. Look at the free ATR level. You can see it just topped just around the free ATR level. So it could run up there a little bit, but obviously extended a little in the short term after earnings here. So it'd be good for it to consolidate a bit first before making any attempt to push any higher. SAIA also fairly early in its stage 2 advance. You can see broke out back here in mid-January time. So a big volume move this week as it reversed back off the 30-week moving average. We look down on the daily chart here. You can see the gap up move on Friday back through the highs here. So shook out. It's reversed back up, still in this structure here. It's a little bit of spring type action. Be looking for a follow through move up and out of the range, ideally, for it to tighten up, potentially start to push higher. So early in stage 2 at the moment, be looking for a run up towards the old highs, ideally there. PNR, again, still early in its stage 2 advance, like many stocks at the moment. You can see just breaking out into stage 2 back in early January here. So pull back into the backup zone, didn't come all the way back down to the original structure. So it's pulled back out, pushing through, but not yet made new highs in the near term above this intermediate term swing high here. So we go back to the daily chart. You can see that sort of blow off move there that was on volume at the time, still moving up towards that level at the moment. but in the near term, go to the free ATR levels. You can see again running at the top of the range at the moment, so getting a little bit extended in the short term. Again, be looking for this to consolidate a little bit before making an attempt to push a little bit higher there. GGG, another one big move this week on earnings. So gapped up Thursday, followed through on Friday. You can see breaking out of the structure. So attempted to start to move out into stage 2 back into February, rolled over a little bit a few times, couldn't quite push out convincingly. There's now more convincingly on Thursday, had a big strong move up to new highs here. So we look at it back on the weekly chart and see what we got. More than 52-week highs by a long shot, but coming back up into the old turbulent zone here. So you can see old resistance from the 2021 highs. So potential for this to consolidate for a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to see it fall back into the prior range. So it can consolidate in the mid to high 70s, and that would be good for this one. But in the near term, obviously, a little bit extended here. Hubble, HUBB, pushing out to new highs here. Stage 2 continuation attempt was starting to show potential stage 3 structure. So we had our initial pullback here, a little bit of a change of behavior. So one way to identify stage 3, which obviously some people might not be aware of, don't follow me as much. So when we're looking at a stage 2 advance, you want to judge how the pullbacks are moving, to get a character of the move. So you can see this is our first change of behavior as such. So this is a sign you might potentially be moving into early stage 3, but you need confirmation of that. So we mark this a buying climax, an automatic reaction, and a secondary test, and there's a potential structure developing through here. So we then, as we start to make that secondary test and roll over into phase B of a structure, start to move below the 30-week moving average, etc., then we can see that we're potentially in a stage 3 structure here. This could still be an up thrust, but at the moment making a stage 2 continuation breakout attempt on some strong relative volume here. So could potentially push higher, but we can see, be on watch in case it does start to fall back into the range again, as it could obviously turn into a UTAD at that point. But if it can manage to hold at the top of the range here, start to develop, then potentially be looking for a continuation break. Look on the daily chart here, you can see as it's fairly extended in the short term there, running up that free ATR level there at the top of its normal range. You can see during, obviously, a normal uptrend doesn't often hit the free ATR level, and when it does, which didn't at all during this point here or this run here, it tends to have short pullbacks. So character of the stock, obviously with it being this extended, you would expect some kind of pullback in the near term. Ideally, if it does, we won't want to see it go below the gap up low here, as this is our change of behavior in the near term. So this marks our level of interest there in terms of on the downside. If it does attempt to reverse back in, as that could then turn into a stage 3. So if it did move back below there, then this would turn this into a UTAD and a test and then rolling. But we can consolidate in the upper range here, ideally in the upper part of this, and then continue, then obviously would make a stage 2 continuation breakout. Another one of interest, BRO, Brown and Brown. So a bit more boring one here from the financials, starting to move into early stage 2 of a breakout this week. So look at this again on a daily chart. You see in the near term, just breaking some near term levels here. Not completely through all of the older resistance yet, but some of the near-term pivots it's starting to move through. So not huge volume. It did have a volume spike through this area here, but volume's only a little bit up on where it is normally here. So we go back to the weekly. On the cumulative, the last 2 weeks has been fairly strong overall, but this one just moving into early stage 2 potentially. So we'd want to see some follow through. And then MDT, number one, huge stage 4 decline prior to this first change of behavior. So starts the stage 1 structure. So from the selling climax to the automatic rally here, we start our structure. You can see we obviously got older resistance levels as well to watch through here, multiple levels. So you can see this is our stage 2 level to watch. Got multiple tests through there and starting to move up, but still not over older resistance zones here, and if we're putting Ichimoku cloud on this on the weekly chart, you'll be able to see it's not clear of that because of the length and the depth of the stage 4 decline. It's going to have some resistance to deal with, so potentially moving into a significant level here around the low 90s, so potentially might need to consolidate in a sideways structure for a little while before making an attempt to move into stage 2 more convincingly. So potential early move into stage 2 here with resistance still. Back to the start. Right,